it is so good to look at the good that people do, right? And it's so good to see, you know, the better parts of them, you know, the good movements, you know, that they're a part of. But you know, we do set ourselves up to be blindsided or to be hurt, you know, when we give people the power of the pedestal.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah. Welcome to Tapestry Tea Time, episode 4. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between an archetype and a stereotype. And Alondra's currently making a face like I poisoned her tea.
I was like, wait, but it's just my reflection looking back at me. I was like, something's in my tea. It's me.
It's just your other personality staring at you, asking questions about what's reality.
My dark side.
Okay, so to give a little bit of a framework about the differences between an archetype and a stereotype before we dive into this. So an archetype, we're looking at a recurring pattern across cultures and stories. So, you know, a character type that is represented in big ways across mythologies, across religious stories, things like that. You know, you've got the hero, the trickster, the mother, the threshold guardian, things like that. It's really just a structural tool that humans have used to tell stories throughout time and across cultures and spiritual and religious traditions. And then we have stereotypes, which are very closely related, but with some distinct differences. So oftentimes this is a reductive structure that we're placing on a character. And it's often then applied to people in real life. So, you know, stereotypes that might be gender-based or race-based or religion-based, things like that. And it strips the individual of their contribution to the story and oftentimes comes with some negative expectations and associations as well. So we're going to start off by playing a little game. And we're going to look at some, you know, character types and try to decide, is this an archetype? Is this a stereotype? Sometimes they can kind of swing either way, depending on how they're framed or, you know, who's playing that character. And yeah, just have a little discussion to get ourselves warmed up into these ideas.
Something else to know about me is I love games. I have like 50 board games at home. So if you want me to engage in anything, just be like, let's play a game. And I'll be like, ooh, okay. I have to gamify my life.
Honestly, though, I made myself a sticker chart for some chores recently because I'm like, you know, I might be 30. Actually, wait, I'm at 32 now. I'm 30-something now. But I still need a sticker chart because
100%.
ADD.
Yeah. I love that.
I saw a definition for ADD the other day, and it was a diva has distractions. It's like, I need that shirt.
Yeah, I need that shirt, need that mug, need that notebook. Yeah, that I'll never use.
Tattooed on my forehead.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Okay, so our character types. We're going to start off with the wise old man. So some examples might be Gandalf, Dumbledore, Mr. Miyagi.
Shifu.
Yeah, Shifu.
Yeah.
Inner peace.
Yeah. Uncle Iroh. The best of the best. I'm going to say wise old man. Okay, another thing you guys need to know is there's actually a cheat sheet next to me, and I don't want to look at it because I'm trying to just do this by myself. I don't know. I think, wise old man, archetype, because it's from a story, right?
Well, all of these come from stories. Like, you'll find stereotypes in stories plenty, as well as archetypes. I think the idea with an archetype is it transcends, you know, a myopic view of a certain culture or a gender or something like that. And it's more about like, yeah, it's a structure we look at versus a very formulaic profile that we're applying to a very specific demographic.
So is it a stereotype?
So this one, it can kind of function as both. So I would say it's an archetype.
You tricked me.
I'm a trickster. That's another one we'll talk about. But oftentimes it starts to kind of veer into the stereotype, especially when it gets consistently racialized. So like
Asian old men.
Exactly. Right, like you named a lot of those, this idea like, yes, the Mr. Miyagi. And it's not the like, I've never met an Asian that was mad about Mr. Miyagi or Shifu or any of those things. But, you know, like you get this a little bit with like older indigenous people as well.
Totally.
You know, it's like the wise old elder.
Totally.
And like that's just like, oh, that's who you must be if you are old and native or old and Asian.
Right. Yeah. No.
And it's not necessarily negative per se, but it definitely, it's like you immediately apply that, oh, this is the structure that I'm interpreting you as a human through.
100%. Yeah. It makes me think about like that the scene from like Eat, Pray, Love,
Mhm.
whatever. Yeah, with that guy, he's like reading her palm and telling her everything. She like comes the next year and does everything that basically her palm told her to do,
Yeah.
or like that he told her to do. And he's like, yeah, I don't remember you. Or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
She showed up. I just thought that was so funny. So it's really
Yeah,
interesting.
just here to make a penny sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one. So manic pixie dream girl, i.e. Zoe Deschanel from anything in like the 2000s.
Okay. I'm gonna say stereotype.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yay.
Point for Alondra. Yeah, so this one actually is particularly used in the film industry
Okay.
and was kind of coined as this way of describing this character type that shows up in a lot of like rom-coms and other type stories where she's just like
Mhm.
a little ditzy and a little crazy and, you know, but everybody kind of loves her. And there's like almost sometimes like a little bit of like an infantilized sexualization in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like she's
It's
like
there.
she's 25, but she kind of acts 14, but it's cute and like sexy at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
No shade to
100%.
New Girl. I love New Girl. But yeah, so stereotype. Next one, the trickster. So Loki, Coyote.
You know, I had the biggest crush on Loki.
Which Loki though?
The Tom Hiddleston one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know he originally auditioned for Thor.
Did he really?
Yeah, that's how he got into the Marvel universe.
No way.
Thor. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't think I could see him as Thor.
No, like
yeah.
he was meant for that role.
100%.
Like there's some people it's like the universe would not be right if you did not play this role. And that was 100%.
100%. It's so funny. I had like so many crushes on like the bad boy, but I ended up marrying like the nicest, like sweetest little
Your husband
cinnamon
is such a
roll.
golden
I
retriever.
know. It's like I wouldn't have it any other way.
Mhm.
It's like that man exists in a fantasy, and I don't want to be married to that. So
No, one of the episodes I really want to do is get somebody like, I don't know, Jennifer from Lace and Fife on here and let's dissect the like bad boy attraction.
oh my gosh,
Like, I really wanna pick that
100%. I would
apart.
love to do that because I've often wondered. I'm like, what? Why?
Am I broken?
Yeah, exactly. It's like I actually don't really want that in real
Yeah.
life, but like in like books and movies or whatever, I'm always like, ooh,
It's like the danger.
yeah, the little
Yeah.
bad boy. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, not little bad boy. Sorry, guys. Okay.
Okay. Another one. So the strong black woman.
Stereotype.
Yeah. And this is
Okay.
one of those that's like not maybe inherently negative, but it's a really load bearing structure to put on someone.
Okay.
It's
yeah,
like,
for sure.
Black women are strong. So if
Mhm.
you're not, strong and aggressive in maybe the way somebody might expect from that stereotype,
Yeah.
are you a good black woman?
Right.
You know,
right.
things like that. Or like the smart Asian woman.
Uh-huh. No, 100%. I had there's this girl that I went to high school with who was black, right? And
Mhm.
you could see her like she would code switch, right? So
Mhm.
like if she was with other black students and stuff, then she was like more aggressive, and
Yeah.
stuff. Not like in a bad way, but more aggressive, more sassy. And then when she was with white, which the school was predominantly white, she was very sweet, like very like soft spoken and stuff. And I think that both sides of
Mhm.
both of those sides were equally her. It's not like she was like
Yeah.
faking it or whatever, but yeah, it was like really interesting to to see that. So I don't know. I'm like, I don't we don't have a black guest on here, but if we did, I'd be very curious to ask them
Yeah.
like, what do you think about that stereotype? Is it one that you're like, I think it's kind of more positive, or do you
Yeah.
feel like it's like, no, I don't really like that? I think stereotypes in general, right?
Mhm.
Obviously do a disservice. I think more times often than not, but
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder.
Yeah. They're complex though. Like they're hard to, completely put in a like, oh, this is just bad. Let's put it in a box and put it away.
Totally.
There's a lot to dissect for sure.
Mm.
Okay. Next we'll do the tortured artist. So Van Gogh, Sylvia Plath, Kurt Cobain.
Oh, I want to say stereotype, but I'm like, I've said stereotype for the last 3 times. If I'm taking my mind when I'm
Yeah.
taking a test in school, I was like, it's got to be archetype now, because
Yeah.
I've circled A every
Yeah,
single
right?
time.
Like, Tess, don't do this.
Yeah, it's got to be B. Archetype?
Yeah, this is one of the ones like it's a
Okay.
soft archetype. But I think you can make an argument either direction.
Okay.
But it's one of those archetypes that maybe doesn't encourage positive things per se, because it's very
Okay,
much
for
like
sure.
to be creative, you have to be tortured.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
you can make an argument that it's a stereotype as well.
Mhm.
Okay, this next one should be easy.
I have a question there real quick.
Yeah, of course.
Have you, do you feel like you make your best work though when you are tortured or when you're calm?
Ooh, that's a hard one. The emotionally impactful stuff often when I'm tortured, and that's something I've thought
Yeah.
about a lot.
Yeah.
Honestly, actually, I thought about this a couple times when I was in college, and I had some like cycles where I'd have like a really bad breakup or like some other like kind of big disappointment in my life.
Mm.
And I made some really good artwork during those periods. It's just like there's so much angst in your soul that needs to get out. Or, you know, just like sometimes it was tender pain that needed to get out onto the canvas. And there's an energy to that sort of exorcism of your soul.
Totally.
That's hard to match when you're feeling positive things.
100%.
Yeah.
You know what's so crazy? One of the best, because I used to only work in digital art right before I switched to oils in college. And one of like the best digital artworks that I ever did for my age at that time. And honestly, sometimes I still look back at it. I'm like, dang, how did I do that? I know. I was like, oh, wow. Was when I got my mission call. Because, oh my gosh, everyone was like, do you want to invite people over? And I had this sinking feeling in my heart. I was like, no, we can't have anyone over here because I really wanted to go foreign. And I was like, I know, like, I meant to be a foreign, you know, whatever. I was super prideful. I meant to be like a foreign missionary, blah, blah, blah. You know, only like losers get called stateside. Not true. But, you know, I was young, dumb, prideful, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this feeling, the sinking feeling in my heart that I was like, that's a freaking stateside mission in that envelope. And so I was like, no one can come. And I opened it up and I cried. And everyone, you know, usually happy cry, you're like, I'm going to Spain or, you know, I'm going to Tennessee, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, sad crying because I was like, I'm going to California. I was like, my sister went to California. I can't also go to California. Anyway, and then I made like the most banger freaking digital artwork of this Viking princess in front of a fire. It was awesome. Took me like 10 hours and I emerged. I was like, behold. But I'm still going to California.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah, I think that's really interesting though. So I'm like, I definitely, to your point, I definitely feel like that, and all those really heavy emotions, you know, it is so therapeutic to take them out onto the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a good motivator to just like, I don't know, you just lose yourself in the process.
Yeah.
But I definitely do find that like, you know, if I'm doing like studies, you know, for example, like live painting or something like that, it helps me a lot better to not be tortured when I'm doing that. Yeah. Or I'm just like, what?
Those are torturous on their own.
Yeah. I don't need more emotion thrown into this. It's like, I got to be cool as a cucumber right now. Yeah.
Yeah. It always cracks me up when people ask me like, oh, you know, painting from nude models. Like, isn't that just like kind of a sexual experience?
Yeah.
I'm like, you clearly have never done live painting or live drawing.
I'm looking at her cleavage like, what shade of green is that? I don't know. I'm going to cry.
Like, I know that's an ab.
Yeah.
But like, that piece of knowledge is over here. And
exactly.
like, right now I'm like,
That's
I can't draw a straight line.
Looking circle.
Yeah. It's like, I know there's a core shadow here I need to find. And like, but why is this ab bigger than that ab? And
100%.
like, now the hips are at the wrong angle.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, the pain.
Yeah. It's like, it is the last thing from an erotic experience that I've ever experienced.
Yeah. No, I leave and my husband's like, hey. I'm like, no. Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll have plenty of time to talk about how tortured we are on future episodes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next one should be really easy. Okay. So the mother. So Demeter, Molly Weasley, your own mom, Mother Earth.
Okay, just because you said it's really easy, now I'm overthinking it. Is it? Please be an archetype. Is it?
Yes,
an
it's an archetype. Yeah, Mother, Maiden, Crone.
Yeah.
And you know, again, like I feel like specifically within religious context, this comes with a certain set of baggage, but we're talking about it in a larger, like storytelling narrative context. This idea of like a very feminine, kind of creation-focused energy or character. Like that's something you see in every single storytelling tradition.
Yeah.
And it's such a core part of this idea of, you know, balancing energies and dynamics in stories. So we'll just do a handful more. Okay, let's do...
Try to trick me.
Yeah, I'm like, what's a tricky one we can
I'm actually
do here?
pretty freaking good at this now.
The sassy gay friend. She's really funny because Ben was our last.
I know. Okay, I'm going to say stereotype then.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, okay, good.
And, you know, like, I definitely have friends that are sassy and gay and are just so fabulous. But I also have friends that are gay and not sassy.
I know, yeah. I would say your husband's sassy.
Yeah.
And he's not gay.
Yeah. People have thought he is.
I know.
Often. And it's really funny because his gaydar's not always great. So just saying, there's some stories there. But yeah, one of the issues with a stereotype like this is, you're relegated to a certain relationship with the people around you. Or it's like, you think about the sassy gay friend in like a lot of comedies or like rom-coms, and it's like, oh, they come in, they do the like makeover montage.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the entirety of their character. Is
Yeah.
they're fashionable, they're supportive.
Yeah.
Not necessarily bad things, but like that's the parameters of who they are as a person within the storyline.
100%. I'm thinking about so one of my favorite movies that Disney has made more recently-ish is Cruella. It is just so fun. It's heist, it's fashion, it's the two Emmas who are fabulous actresses. There's a character in the movie and he does drag, right? But he is kind of strictly there to make the costumes and be a supporting character, right? And he is amazing at what he does. And you love his character because he has a super, super cool shop that you wish was real, full of just like fabulous clothes, whatever vintage editions of like past fashion shows and stuff. But yeah, he's just, he's like he's a supporting man, right? So yeah, I definitely think that's true. And it's also, it doesn't align with, how every gay man is, but feeling like you have to fit into like that mold, to be gay. I think about, I don't know this guy, obviously, personally, but the guy who plays Gaston, right?
Yeah.
Live action. Yeah. I remember when I told my husband, I was like, yeah, did you know that actor's gay? He was like, what?
Yeah.
Because he gives man, and so you're like, no way.
He channeled Gaston.
Yeah, 100. I mean, and in The Hobbit too, he did a fantastic job, and yeah, you never would have thought, but because he doesn't fit into that stereotype. So
yeah. It just betrays our own biases and the stereotypes we expect out of people.
Exactly. And it's like embarrassing for myself when I'm like, oh, he's not, I never would have guessed.
And you're like, oh,
wait, why would I never? Yeah. Oh, I'm ashamed. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think right now we're experiencing a really fascinating moment of tension with like Mormon and Latter-day Saint stereotypes and what people expect of us, for better or worse.
Totally.
And both, stereotypes from people within the community are like, oh, this is what I expect of myself. And, somebody else is portraying something different, so they don't fit my stereotype. Or, people saying, oh, I'm seeing this thing on TV, therefore that must be the stereotype of all Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
I think that's, part of the reason we started this podcast.
Yeah.
Because we want people to feel like, oh, there are fully fleshed out stories and different, kind of subplots and different characters that can be played within this culture.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No. A lot of times in our faith, right, people say, oh, is it doctrine or is it culture? And the hard thing is that this is a newer faith, right? It's like 200-ish years old. And so I think a lot of those things get intertwined. And so, yeah, I think it's more important than ever for people to have, to be sharing their stories and sharing their own personal experiences and how they deal with, with this religion, with this faith practice.
Well, that's the beauty of stereotypes specifically, is that perpetuated stories is what creates them. So, we tell these same stories over and over and over again, and it creates a stereotype. But the same tool that created it can deconstruct it as well. That the more we tell varied stories or alternate stories, it waters down and can eventually dissolve that stereotype as well.
Yeah, 100%. We are the we're the water to that sandcastle. That's all I got. I'm not tortured right now, okay? Give me a break.
Okay, so another thing I want to talk about, it's a little bit of a pivot, is the idea of the people that we put in these roles of either archetypes or sometimes stereotypes, and the people that we put on pedestals. And as artists, obviously, we're thinking sometimes very literally about putting somebody on a pedestal, making a sculpture, doing a painting of them. Like, what does it mean to monumentalize a person?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that a monument does kind of the same thing that a stereotype does, where it flattens a person, right? So a monument, whether to a person or a group of people, a movement, whatever, it can tend to flatten them into like one single idea, which, the idea itself might be noble, right? But that person was a lot more than just that idea. So for example, again, in religious, spaces, sometimes we have monuments to certain founders and stuff. And those people kind of get flattened into this like ideal, pedestalized, people, but they were, maybe deeply flawed, or they had their strengths and their weaknesses. And sometimes when those weaknesses are revealed, it can feel like a lie, like you've been told a lie, And so I think monuments they're good for memorializing people and movements, but it is so important to not to take that with a grain of salt. This is
Mhm.
not all that this person or movement was.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. And I've been toying with this idea of should we even make monuments to people? And I say this like in a very literal sense, like when we construct a statue in a town square or
Mm.
in front of a church or wherever it might be, like should it ever be a historical figure?
Mhm.
And part of what brought this to the surface was I was living in Virginia, kind of at the peak of some of the um, protest against Confederate statues, which we'll get into more of that later because that's a complex history. But
Yeah.
it really made me stop and ask, like, is there ever a benefit to doing things like this?
Mhm.
And the more I've thought about it, the more I have a hard time convincing myself there is,
Mhm.
because I feel like oftentimes when we try to depict something, that often is noble and good, or, a moment of progress for humanity with a singular person, then that cause can often rise and fall with that singular person, or kind
Yeah.
of, take some bumps in the road. And, some great examples in somewhat recent history. So like Martin Luther King Jr., who was
Mhm.
obviously an icon and did so much good for the American people and especially
Mhm.
for the Black community.
Mhm.
He had his moments, he cheated on his wife. And there's other
Mhm.
things that are fairly well documented that,
Mhm.
are pretty arguably not ethical behavior.
Sure.
And so we're often used as a way to say, hey, the civil rights movement isn't good. Because
Yeah.
how could somebody who's doing these things, also do that?
Yeah.
But, like that can swing a lot of directions. And I think that's an excuse a lot of people make for voting for politicians that, maybe I disagree with. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
they do bad things, but like they do something I care about. And I'm like,
Right.
in some ways it actually supports my argument of like, maybe it shouldn't
Right.
be about the people. It should be about the ideals, the ideas, the philosophies, the structures that we're striving towards as humanity.
100%. Yeah. This is kind of like a weird pivot maybe, but I thought a lot about putting people on a pedestal during when I was dating.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a I guess everyday life or whatever kind of thing. It was always so weird to me when I would go on a date, like one date, with a guy, and he would say, verbatim something along the lines of, "You're perfect," and I know that he
You're
was
like,
just,
I'm not.
I know, yeah, literally, and I know he was just like, he's probably just trying to be nice and everything, those
Yeah.
rose-colored glasses are on, right? You're just like, oh, like we're made for each other, or whatever. But that always like freaked me out because I was
Yeah.
like, whatever you think I am, that whatever you're thinking in your stop thinking it.
Yeah.
Because that's not who I am, probably.
Mm.
Whatever expectations you have, like drop those expectations, that's not me. And I think that, it is so good to look at the good that people do, right? And it's so good to see, the better parts of them, the good movements, that they're a part of. But we do set ourselves up to be blindsided
Mm-hmm.
or to be hurt, when
Mm-hmm.
we give people the power of the pedestal,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I also think, too, if we are consumers of things that have been pedestalized, we don't always pause and ask questions about what the process was that got us there.
for sure.
And going back to the whole idea of Confederate statues, like
Mm.
this is one that I went down that rabbit hole when I was living in Virginia.
Mhm.
Um, I lived in this little tiny town called Amherst. And, population.
I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
It was like, I think it was like a few thousand people lived in like the town
Wow.
proper. And, by town proper, it was like a little main street strip with like 5 buildings and like the city offices and a post office and 1 grocery store and 2 restaurants. Like, that was it.
Makes it easy.
And
to
1
know where to
stoplight.
shop, yeah.
Yeah. So it's, that kind of a little southern town in the country.
Mhm.
But it had a Confederate monument in front of the courthouse right there with
Mhm.
the city offices. And, it wasn't anything particularly egregious. It was just an obelisk. It wasn't actually a statue of a person. But the interesting thing is if you look into the history of that monument and many of the other, much more blatant, ones of like Confederate generals and things like
Mhm.
that, is they weren't actually constructed, by their families in the aftermath of the war of like, hey,
Oh.
we want to remember this person.
Right.
They were constructed by activist groups in the late 1800s or like 1890s through like 1920 to 1930 as a pushback against Reconstructionists and as a pushback against like the early civil rights movement and things like that. And like this one was done in 1920. So a solid 60 years after the Civil War.
Wow. So this isn't just like to memorialize somebody. This
No.
is direct pushback to.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
reconstruction of history. And I think, we do that in culture in a lot of ways where we'll kind of cherry pick something and say, hey, I want to remember this and I want to commemorate this because it fits my agenda now.
Yeah.
And then people kind of inherit that without asking why it was handed to them.
Totally.
And so, there's plenty of people I've known who felt, personally attacked when people were saying, oh, we need to take down these Confederate sculptures, because then it's like, oh, my great-great-grandfather fought in this war, and like this is in memory of like all the pain my family experienced during this time of conflict. And while that sculpture might represent that to them, that was not its inception. That's not what it represents to a lot of other people too. Like it can represent some really negative things to people, in many ways. And especially, too, when you're putting it in context of things like in front of a courthouse.
Yeah.
Where it's saying, like, we were on the right side of history.
Yeah.
And, we should have won this war. And, you and your ideals should have lost this war.
Yeah.
It's like it says a lot to those in the local community about what they should expect from, the local justice system and the local government and things like that. Even if, it's kind of an unstated thing. And so, just asking questions about, like, how did I inherit the pedestals that I inherited?
That is so interesting because, like, I grew up in Bentonville, Arkansas, right? And in the town center, there was a Confederate statue on the fountain of a Confederate general, right? And they recently removed it. But I remember there was a lot of backlash when they did remove it. And so it's really interesting to hear, because I wondered in passing, right? I was like, how did we even get up with those guys anyway? You know, but I never really, I never looked into it. So
it's a little group called the Daughters of the Confederacy, which sounds sweet.
Yeah.
But is really kind of a, whitewashed version of groups like the KKK.
I mean, anyone who grew up with sisters knows that,
We can do evil too.
Yeah.
We love a woman in a male-dominated field.
Yeah. I mean, what? Okay, next.
Yeah. So continuing this conversation along very similar lines, but looking at something that happened very recently, we can look at some of the controversy that's recently arisen around Cesar Chavez. So for those of you who might not know, Cesar Chavez was an American labor unionist, political activist. He did a lot of organization around farm workers' rights and a lot of like the Latino community working on farms in the U.S. in the 60s and 70s. Somebody that's very beloved. But it recently came to light that he had a very cult-like personality and used that to abuse and molest many women that he worked with in this movement.
Caesar.
I know.
It's always something, man. Like,
I know. I wonder why we choose the bear.
Literally.
But, it's resulted in things like, his name being taken off of streets because there's tons of streets named after him and things like this. But again, somebody who was supporting something that seemed really good but was a really complex character, and because his personality and megalomania was so entwined in this movement, it causes some cracks.
Yeah.
The minute that pedestal, gets ripped away for a lot of people. And it also meant, too, that, a lot of these women didn't bring these things up until 30, 40 years down the road.
He's fighting for you. Yeah.
And so there's danger both in that moment of pedestalizing that person, but also in perpetuating that as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I remember like growing up, I always felt bummed that I didn't have a mentor or someone to basically put on a pedestal, because I would have kids around me who were like, my dad is my hero, or like, I want to be just like my dad, or I want to be just like my mom. My parents and I, we have a good relationship now. But, growing up, I was like, you do? I was like, what? Like, I did not understand that at all. I was like, how is that possible? And so, and, and even like when it came to like artwork and just the things that I wanted to do with my life that I was pursuing in my life, I was like, why does everyone have like a mentor story and I don't, And I was like, where can I find a mentor? So I was trying to look for like the perfect person, even on my mission, right? Like, the perfect, the perfect trainer, the perfect companion, like this and that. Honestly, it was so good that I went on a mission, period, just because it really, really roughed a lot of my edges, or it smoothed a lot of my weird edges that I thought were smooth and then were revealed to not be smooth at all. It did. It made me realize, that people, people are complex, right? I know it's like, I feel like I say this every single episode, right? They're complex characters, but we are. And we do such a disservice to make people feel like they have to be perfect. That's something that runs rampant in religious society anyways, right? This like, wait, you have to be perfect. You have to be perfect, right? That doesn't give way for feeling like the atonement is for you, you know, for feeling that like you can change, you can grow, you can improve as a person. And so that's like a dangerous mindset to have. And so I, you know, to your point, I definitely think that monumentalizing people, it totally, you know, buys into that kind of culture of perfectionism. Hey, they can do no wrong, you know, instead of acknowledging, oh, they did like this really awesome thing. Maybe we can, you know, monumentalize this movement instead of this person, you know, or at least put a gold star on that movement. Be like, that was really nice that we did that. You know, that you did that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. And you bring up a great point. You'd spent your childhood hungering for that person on a pedestal. And, you know, many ways I'm going to go back and poke some holes in my own logic here, where there's a strong argument to be made for having, you know, heroes to look up to. And I think the question is then, how are we framing those heroes? You know, how are we telling those stories? You know, what depth and complexity are we telling those stories with? And, you know, for me, I think about, you know, religious stories especially, because I feel like, you know, there's a lot of religious characters that I've had to deconstruct as an adult, because I was fed a very monolithic version of them. Whether it was, you know, things that were explicitly written in the scriptures, but I just maybe didn't process fully as a kid, or, you know, maybe historical characters where there was parts of their life or personalities that got kind of pushed to the side in the narratives that I was given.
Definitely.
But I think one of my favorite characters actually in scripture is Peter, because you get to really see him as a full human, and in both the bad and the good, and like he has his meltdowns. It's like he has his bad days. But then he gets up and does what's right at the end of the day. And so seeing that cycle of like the push and pull of like, I know what's right, but I still do what's wrong. Is so important for us to see. And, you know, but still having somebody to cheer for at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And I think he's one of those characters that you can really cheer for, but you can really relate to. And I think those are the type of the stories that we need to lean into.
No, definitely. Because I know, I mean, even like with books and literature, right? There was like an era of, you know, the infallible hero, right? Like they can do no wrong, whatever. But I feel like that got old fast, right? You know, it didn't last very long because we don't like reading about people like that, you know? We appreciate it, you know, in doses, right? But we need to know that, you know, you can be flawed and still be, you know, worth, well, you can be flawed and you can still have worth, basically, right? You know, you can be flawed and still have opportunity to change and to right those flaws, you know? So I don't know. My husband is definitely someone who's always like, you know, he loved like Dragon Ball Z and like, you know, all these like other, you know, animes growing up, you know, because those people are so strong, you know, they're so tough. And, but something that he really liked about their journeys is it's the training montage, right? It's the hero's journey of like them like getting stronger, and like he loves the Count of Monte Cristo, but specifically the part in the book and the movie where he's in prison, you know, and he has to become better and better and better. So yeah. And I mean, who doesn't love those, you know, those montages? Because we like to see ourselves in those people. Yeah.
And I think something that frustrates me sometimes with a lot of contemporary film is in some ways we've swung hard from where I think we were in like the 90s and early 2000s where we had these very clean cut, like good guys, bad guys, you know, especially in sort of like the Disney universe, to now I'll watch a show and I'll get to, you know, the end of 2 seasons and be like, I hate everybody.
I know, that's the hard thing.
I'm looking at you, the diplomat. And you're just like, I just, you don't need to be perfect, but like I want someone to cheer for.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. The thing that will make me turn off a TV show anytime is the infidelity trope, because it is so overplayed. The first time I was like, oh man, there's drama now, you know? But then by like the 80th time, I was like, let me guess, you're gonna all cheat on each other. Let me guess, you know? And then it was just like.
And then end back up in toxic codependent relationships.
Exactly. Oh gosh. So, anytime it's like Grantchester, right? Like you start going down that path and then like the guy like starts cheating on his wife, and then what's his face also, you know, had like this weird like kind of fling thing, and but he was with someone kind of, but not. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I loved you and you broke my heart. You know? I thought you were different, you know, and now we're back here again.
Yeah, exactly. I also too want to say on this topic, like I really love a well-written villain.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh,
villains
yeah.
often end up becoming my favorite part of the story, and it's not because I'm cheering for them.
It's
It's
not because
because
they're a bad boy.
yeah, well, maybe a little bit of that sometimes. But it's because I feel like a well-written villain makes you ask really good questions about your own motivations
Mhm.
or, how society might be manipulated.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite recent film examples of this was the evolution of Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts.
Oh, yeah.
And I was at first really bummed when Johnny Depp got recast.
Mm.
You love Johnny Depp. Like, I grew up on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Totally. Yeah.
He just kind of plays this really wacky, convincing, kind of
He's
almost
a great
cartoonish
actor. Yeah.
villain
Yeah,
in some
but
ways.
it's believable somehow.
But it's believable.
Yeah.
And then when Mads Mikkelsen got the role, at first I was like, oh, this feels a little flat. But as you get into the film, I grew to absolutely love that recasting because it made you understand why so many people followed Grindelwald and why he was so compelling. Because I think it's easy to watch the Johnny Depp Grindelwald and be
For
like,
sure.
oh, haha, the bad guy. And
Yeah.
you have to be a little delulu to follow him.
Yeah.
But you watch the Mads Mikkelsen one and you're like, on a bad day,
Yeah.
I could get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what a good villain should do to us, is be like, oh, there's not as much space between these people and myself.
Totally.
And that's something I need to check in myself.
Totally. I mean, this might sound crazy, but Thanos, low-key, he was talking. Yeah, when he did the little
on my
snap
PMS
thing.
days, I get you, bro.
And I was
I
I hope I'm one of the ones who disintegrates. Sounds very peaceful.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, more food for everyone else. Yeah, I completely agree. When I feel like another person who does this really well, we talk about him a lot, but it's because he does a lot of things really well with his books that I feel like were hard for me to find in other books. Obviously Brandon Sanderson, he does this really well. Like his villain. Oh, if you're on the Way of Kings book 1, just skip ahead 15 seconds. Yeah, or 2, or maybe 3. I can't remember when it's revealed. Anyway, Taravangian.
Taravangian.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Taravangian. Right. He's a really great villain because half the time I'm like,
again, stereotype of wise old Asian man.
I know. Yeah, and he plays that stereotype beautifully. Well, actually, they kind of think he's kind of senile, kind of silly, this peaceful dude or whatever. But yeah, it's just when it's revealed, what he's really up to and why he's up to it, though, too. You're kind of like, oh my gosh, this guy's the bad guy, but he thinks he's the good guy, and that makes him an even worse bad guy, but every villain usually thinks that they're the hero of their story, right?
But his motivations are completely relatable.
Absolutely.
He's trying to protect his family. He's trying to preserve his culture. How many times have humans throughout history done truly terrible things in the name of those things?
Yeah, yeah. And to his knowledge, there is no way to save that planet.
Yeah.
So he can only save the people he loves. So yeah, it's just yeah, I love villains like that. I agree.
Yeah. So maybe the answer is that we need to build more monuments to villains.
Yeah, I want Ursula in my fountain.
But honestly, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a couple kind of structural things to wrap this conversation up.
Yeah.
What are specific ways we can approach these conversations, approach these, metaphorical or literal pedestals we might be creating in our life. And I think the first thing that sticks out to me is to show the work as much, if not more than the worker. Let's look at the process of how some of these things came to be. Let's look at maybe the entire community, and maybe that person was very critical in building that community, and, in incepting a chain of work. But what does that day-to-day work look like?
Yeah, no. I think that there needs to be a very intentional, careful balance when we are looking at, to your point, the movement that someone is involved in and the person, right? Because if I feel like sometimes the tendency is either to lean one way or the other, right? They were all good and the movement was all good, or because they're bad or whatever, we discard the movement, even if the movement itself is good, or because the movement was good, these people did some bad things, but hey, who doesn't, or whatever. But I think we can agree, like Chavez, whatever, that's extremely effed up. That's so messed up. And so I think it's really important that we hold space, for those people, and that, if those people are alive, that they receive, retribution, right? Or some sort of justice, for those terrible things that they're
opportunities to
doing.
atone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, for those kinds of things, because I'm like, if we just let those go by the wayside because, hey, well, they're also doing this great thing, you
Mhm.
know, it's like there are a lot of other people who could technically fill those shoes who are not going to also be doing this bad thing, you
Yeah.
know, that can fulfill that movement, finish the movement,
Yeah.
you know,
And
if
again,
needed.
at what cost?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
At what point have we sacrificed too much of, our own souls?
Yeah.
At what point have we made a golden calf of the thing that
Mhm.
we're trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
I think that's something we have
Too
to ask ourselves.
often. So, so we need to stop doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I think another thing is building space and expectations for revision and growth and new revelation into our processes. And, when we're talking from the inside of our religion, like revelation means a very specific theological thing, but I'd say even from a historical standpoint, that we're building room into our narratives of saying, you know, we don't know the full story.
Mhm.
And, we're doing our best with our current understanding of the story,
Mhm.
but things might come to light that change the angle that we view this at,
Mhm.
and that's not a threatening thing.
Yeah.
But that's part of our evolving knowledge about something, and that we've built flexibility into our expectations where that doesn't shatter us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, yeah, we need to include those complications, right?
Mhm.
So, the initiative's national memory or the Equal Justice Initiative's national memorial for peace and justice in Montgomery, right?
Mhm.
So it doesn't just celebrate individuals, right? It doesn't make someone just one person a hero.
Mhm.
It just names every single lynching victim.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know their personal lives or anything, but that's not the point of it. It's just this was the thing that happened. These are the people that it happened to.
Yeah.
We need to remember this, you know, because this cannot happen again.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And I even think about that, in my own family history, that there's some things that have come to light, either as I've been an adult and kind of put some stuff together, or as, things have been actively revealed,
Mhm.
where people that I grew up looking up to turned out to be truly nefarious characters.
Mhm.
And, I've had to wrestle with that of like, oh, I'm a direct descendant of this person and they're, an abuser.
Yeah.
And they did these truly terrible things to people. And,
Yeah.
at first that was very unsettling
Mm.
because I had to rewrite a lot of things that I expected out of my family, out of myself, definitely some kind of grieving and distrust maybe. Like,
Yeah,
why didn't you tell me the full
definitely.
story initially?
Totally.
But
What
the
else are you
thing,
not telling me?
yeah, exactly. What else do I don't know?
Yeah.
What else about my world isn't real?
Yeah.
But as I've been, working to heal and get to the other side of that, I've found that in a certain way it's freeing
Mhm.
because I can look at almost anyone in my family tree, in my extended family, and be like, hey, they might have a skeleton in their closet
Mhm.
and we'll deal with that when it comes out. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
accepting that potentiality
Mhm.
has been really liberating.
Yeah.
And it's not that I expect terrible things out of people.
Yeah.
I hope for the best
Yeah.
for those around me. And I want them to do the best. And I want them to, be able to repent and change and do better and understand, that mistakes have been made.
Mhm.
But at the same time, never assuming that even those that I care about the most
Mhm.
couldn't also do something terrible
Mhm.
helps make it easier to offer grace in some ways.
For sure. And also I think it make like you're more mentally ready to deal with it should the issue
Yeah.
arise, you know? Yeah, because I to your point as well, like there are people, in my life where I was like, nah, they would
Mhm.
never, and then they did, right?
Mhm.
And I really had to grapple with that and be like, okay, wait, so are they now a bad person? Did they do a bad thing? What are
Mhm.
they doing to make that bad thing better? What are they doing to
Mhm.
atone for that bad thing?
Yeah.
And are they actually changing? It's just it's these things that like if you plug your ears and la 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 la
Mhm.
and no, that will never happen. If it does, it will break you or you will
Yeah.
not face it
Mhm.
and it will break other victims
Yeah.
because no one is addressing the issue.
Yeah. And I think this is where, positive stereotypes can actually become a negative thing
Mhm.
because, there's definitely situations I saw where people are like, oh, a good father never does this or a
Yep.
good Mormon man never does this.
Yep. Lo and
Like,
behold.
no, they do.
Yep.
Anybody does this,
Yep.
And we have to accept that because we live in a fallen world.
Yeah.
And the
Yep.
sooner we accept that, the better we are at caring for those that are hurt in our communities.
Absolutely. And I think a big part of that is letting go of the pride of being seen again as
Mhm.
perfect, right? As putting your own family on the pedestal as like
Mhm.
the perfect Christian family, or,
Yeah.
the perfect creative family, or we're the family of musicians, we're the family of this, whatever. It's like you have to let those go, because if something happens, your kids, your niece, whoever, nephew, they need to be able to come to you, and they need to be able to seek your help,
Mhm.
and seek your guidance, and you need to be able to back them up, but how are they ever supposed to do that if they're like, no, but the person, who might have been an abuser or a perpetrator of hurt in the family,
Yeah.
if that person is put on a pedestal because of whatever position they hold in a family or in a religious community or in a community in general,
Mhm.
how are they supposed to come forward and believe that someone's going to believe them and help
Yeah.
them? Yeah.
Exactly.
So important.
100%. I love that. Okay. Well, I just want to close with a couple thoughts in relation actually to our show we're doing at the gallery right now.
Okay. Yay.
Because we've talked about some of these really hard, heavy things that we
Yeah.
experience in the real world, and these very real
Mhm.
pedestals we put different people on. And this is actually one of the reasons I've become an increasingly passionate advocate for spaces where we can tell stories that
Mhm.
maybe are fantastical or maybe are, fictional in many ways. Because I think sometimes the heaviness of those real stories can be too much to eat all at once.
Yeah.
And I think then people just choose not to touch them.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's the right response.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes when we can say, hey, let's talk about racism, but make it with goblins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about power inequalities, but put dragons in the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Racism, but what? Zootopia? Fluffy bunnies.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Or, like Ben was sharing on the last episode, the real power of friendship to address tyranny.
Yeah.
And to address really scary both personal and structural things that people might be facing.
Mhm.
And there's something about removing those conversations from the real world and putting them into a third space that we can all occupy together that's so powerful.
Totally.
And that's kind of one of the things I hope we are able to explore and address with the Lore Show is this idea of, we tell these stories and sometimes they're just fun and fluffy and that's okay, but that they're giving us room to stand together and say, how do we deal with these very real human things that
Totally.
all of us are experiencing every single day?
Totally. That actually connects with like a future episode that we have, right? We're like books and media that we consume. How does that help us to hold on. Give me 1 second, guys.
She's transformed from the maiden to the crone.
It's all part of the process, part of the plan, guys. Don't worry. One of our future episodes is all about how, engaging in media and reading, especially about people, who might have a different perspective from you or, fantasy, whatever, it better equips you to show empathy, right? And to be more willing to understand things that maybe you wouldn't normally understand. So yeah, I think that's awesome. Very excited for the Lore Show. I was able to walk through while you guys were setting it up. And there are some pieces that I've only seen pictures of that I was like, no way you guys got this in the gallery. like some pieces from Howard, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And Carly Milligan and I mean, Donato.
Oh, his piece is so good.
Oh my gosh. And Rose
Daytalk Doll.
Thank you. Yeah.
Her K-pop Shakespeare.
Oh,
I'm just going to leave it at that because you need to see it.
You need to see it. You need to see it. And, if I had $8,000, I don't know how much it is, but, if I had the money, that would be in my book nook that I don't have.
So, so if you're in Utah, come see the show. It's
Absolutely.
up until July 11th, I think. And we'd love to see you there. Or you can check it out online.
Opening night, June 6th.
Yeah, which will pass by the time we air this. But
yeah.
Come see the show while it's up.
Sucks to suck, guys. I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And that is the tea. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining our tea party. Tune in every 2 weeks on Mondays for more tea. We'll see you then.